But it's not enough that the risk is substantial. We have a second component to meet. It must also be an unjustified risk. Every day we undertake risks in our lives. Some are more dangerous than others, but we deem them to be justified. To determine whether a risk undertaken is unjustified, we're going to look at the nature of the conduct and the purpose for engaging in that behavior. And we must remember the court's warning. We can't be generic in our description of the conduct or the risk or the purpose. We have to be very specific in our facts. For example, all across this country, ambulances drive through red lights, and sometimes they go faster than the traffic allows. Now, there are rules governing ambulances that help prevent crashes and provide safety for all of us on the streets at the same time, yet there's still a risk that occurs. But we say that risk is justified. There is a reason, a purpose for this behavior, and we generally allow it. Here in Hall, the court was clear to point out there was no justification for Hall skiing straight down this expert slope at excessive speeds. How did the court put it? The court said that Hall was serving no direct interest other than his own enjoyment. What a great way of saying it. This was not justified at all. This was a clear acknowledgement by the court that Hall's excessive speeding was unjustified in this setting. Can you change the facts slightly to make it the same conduct, but now it's a justified risk? Perhaps if Hall were on ski patrol and there's a terribly injured person lying below him on the slope, and he felt compelled to speed to get to that skier. Okay, he's still excessive speed, still it's out of control, but maybe we might say that his conduct, while creating a substantial risk, shouldn't be grounds for criminal punishment, shouldn't be grounds for manslaughter, because his conduct wasn't blameworthy. It wasn't unjustified behavior. There was a purpose to his speeding. There are a couple of other factors at play here that I think produce this result. Do you think it matters that this case took place in Colorado? Do you think that this influenced the court's decision? It's interesting to reflect on policy issues that pull at decisions behind the scenes. After all, this is the first time a death was charged for manslaughter because someone was skiing too fast. On the one hand, you might have thought that Colorado wouldn't want to charge people criminally for skiing deaths. You might have thought that the state would want to promote tourism, and an opinion which opens the door to a criminal charge might chill tourism. It would inhibit the kind of high-flying, hot-dogging, X-Games spirit that Colorado promotes and that Colorado is known for. On the other hand, because it is Colorado, which enjoys healthy skiing tourism, you might have thought that the court believes it's an important message to send out to protect the safety of its skiers. It had to send a message of deterrence to the broader community, that this kind of reckless skiing won't be tolerated on their slopes, that it's not just going to produce civil liability, it's going to produce criminal liability as well. Although not specifically spelled out here, I think that the court chose the latter as the message that it wanted to send. And this is the message that the prosecutor believed it was sending when the jury convicted. Reflecting on the trial's outcome, the prosecutor, Michael Goodby, said, "I think we did a lot of good today. We made the ski world a safer place. I think it sends a message to safe skiers and potentially unsafe skiers that there's accountability. You can't just walk away because it happens on a ski slope." In that one sentence, I hope you can hear at least two goals behind punishment. First, accountability or retribution, that Nathan Hall was blameworthy for the actions he chose to undertake on that run. Second was the prosecutor's comment to others in the community. That's the message regarding deterrence. Change your behavior or you too will be held accountable if you act in this manner. Indeed, involuntary manslaughter is exactly the kind of charge that can change behavior. That's its greatest value. Just like the texting while driving case, charged criminally for the death, and it has the possibility of changing a community's behavior. A spokesman for National Ski Patrol stated, "All of these cases are tragic, but they have created a higher degree of sensibility and awareness, which gives us a chance to put our message out." I also want us to consider the defendant. Not all criminal defendants are created equal. Sometimes, even though the conduct may allegedly be the same, a particular defendant brings some baggage or background that makes us view the conduct differently. Here, Hall was an expert skier. We have to take that into account. We have to realize that when he went down that slope, he chose to be out of control. But what if we had exactly the same conduct? A skier out of control, heading straight down an expert slope, but now he's not an aggressive expert skier. Instead, he's an extremely inexperienced skier who was in over his head when he landed on this mountain. Yeah, he was out of control, but we might be more inclined not to think of him as blameworthy. I'm not sure that the court would have been as quick to go after him as the court was to go after Hall. I know this makes it feel as though involuntary manslaughter is a little squishy. How does one attach a rule to this kind of decision-making? But this is how the criminal law often plays out. Discretion to charge or not charge occurs at various points along a timeline in the criminal system. The detective investigating might have written a report that would have framed this as a scared, inexperienced skier who tried to get down the mountain but who lost control. Or, in Hall's case, an expert, aggressive skier who knew better. A prosecutor with our inexperienced skier might have decided this was a terrible accident and might have refused to charge criminally, leaving it instead for the civil courts alone to work out. Hall was the perfect poster child to charge with the first skiing accident. He was an expert skier who knew better, who was better skilled than his conduct demonstrated. He created a substantial risk to everyone's safety on the slope that day, and for no good reason. It was a death that could have clearly been avoided, but for Hall's irresponsible behavior.